Hello and welcome again to my humble kitchen. My name is Leonard Lopez and this week I'm going to make you a perfect summer dish, lasagna. Now, I know you're thinking like lasagna is a very thick and hearty dish and it's only for winter because of the ground beef and meat, or you can do chicken, but this one's going to be a vegetarian lasagna. We're going to use summer veggies, which everybody knows that I love, zucchini and squash. We're going to have fresh vine-ripened tomatoes. This is fat-free ricotta. We're also going to use onions. And this egg, I'll show you what that's going to be for. Garlic, parsley, and basil. And you're going to need your pasta water boiling already. I already have it starting to boil with olive oil and salt. And what I'm going to do now is just chop the garlic and start getting ready to cook the veggies down. So, we all know that chopping garlic is easy. Just gotta hit it, and that takes out all the skin. You don't want too much garlic. We have a lot of other flavors going on today. And then of course we're gonna season it properly with salt and pepper. Always have to season it. So you're going to put your garlic aside for now. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to take our tomatoes. Now, in a nice fresh veggie lasagna, I like using whole tomatoes. We're not really going to use any type of pasta sauce from the jar or the can. We are going to have crushed tomatoes with a little bit of their water in it. That comes from a can, but since it's been sitting in the fridge for a little bit, it actually reduces down in the salt. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop this up into small pieces, whatever sizes you'd like. And we're going to use about 4 vine-ripened tomatoes. Vine-ripened tomatoes are sweeter, and we're going to keep all the seeds and the flesh in, because when we cook it down, it's actually going to create the sauce. Okay, and it seems like our pasta water is boiling, so I'm going to finish up this tomato. And that's exactly how you want it. You want it diced. You want to see all the fleshiness because it's a nice sweet tomato. So we have our pasta water boiling. Okay. Then we're going to take, I'm using a whole grain, surprise, surprise, a whole grain pasta. Since we are looking at healthiness. So for lasagna, you want to make sure you put it in and let it form itself, because they're longer and you don't want the strips to break while it's cooking. So that'll wilt down. So while that's forming its shape, pasta coming into its own, coming of age pasta. Perfect. Okay. Alright, all the pasta's in the water, and then we're going to start for the inside. Okay, so now we're going to start on what we're going to put into our vegetable lasagna. So I'm going to put about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil in a preheated pan. Make sure we spread the love. And first, we're going to have the garlic. That's the sound that you want right there. You know, like I said, you don't need too much because you're going to have a lot of flavors going on. There you go. After the garlic, you want to put the onions. A half onion diced. We're going to spread that around a little bit. I love that sizzling sound. That means that we are creating good things today. Next, you want to make sure you put your tomato last, because your tomato is going to take in literally no time to cook. You're gonna put your zucchini. Well, that was squash before, now zucchini. Squash. Spread that around a little bit. Okay, looking good. A little bit of sea salt. A little bit of pepper. It's all to taste. A little bit of oregano. And then if you remember from the first episode, a little bit of Italian seasoning. Get that a quick clip. So let's just check our pasta a little bit. Perfect. Now whole grain pasta takes a little bit longer to cook. It takes about 15 minutes, especially for lasagna. They're such bigger noodles. We don't want it to cook all the way. We want it to be a little bit al dente because we're going to put it in the oven. Alright, so now we're going to check on our mixture for our actual lasagna. Smells good. So we have the veggies cooking and sweating. So now what we're going to do is add the crushed tomatoes that I was talking about. This will be basically the base of the sauce. I don't want to use an actual tomato sauce because if we're going to cook a healthier dish, there's a lot of sodium when it comes to tomato sauce. So we're going to spread that around a little bit. Perfect. Alright, we're going to recover that. Let that sweat a tiny bit more, just a tiny bit more. Alright, so I have the insides of the lasagna, the stuffing of the lasagna that we're going to actually put in. And I put about a cup and a half of crushed red tomato in there from the can, but I had it in my fridge so a lot of the sodium was washed out. And now we're going to just chiffonade the basil. Now just remember, basil is a very, 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 very sensitive herb. If you chop it a little too rough, it'll bruise right away, and you don't want that. You don't want it to bruise because it's such a beautiful light herb. And that's all. I like big chunks of basil. Big chunks of basil to me are my favorite. So this I'm going to add to the mixture. Let that cook down a little bit. And then the parsley. So I have a whole bunch of parsley here. And I'm going to take about a cup, half a cup, cut off the stems. Alrighty, then we're going to add this parsley also. Okay, so we have our pasta boiling. That should be done any moment. We're going to just take it out of the water. Like I said, you want it to be a little bit al dente. We have our mixture going so that we can put into our lasagna. Just mix that in together. We have our pasta boiling. And we're about to actually take that out of the water because we don't want it to get any softer. We have our mixture going. We added our parsley and basil. And then we're going to do our dry herbs in a second. We're going to let that come to a simmer. While we're letting that simmer, I'm going to go ahead and drain the pasta. Okay, so we just drained our pasta and letting it drain in the sink. Now we have our fat-free ricotta. And the reason why I get fat-free is because we're going to add an egg. This is going to be sort of the binder of the lasagna. And if you add one egg, that'll be more than enough fat that needs to go in it. So we're just going to combine that together. So that's our mixture for the ricotta. We're letting our pasta drain. Now what I'm going to do is add our tomatoes to our mixture. So we have a nice simmer going, and you want to add the fresh tomatoes. You can use any tomatoes you want. I use this tomato because it has a lot of moisture. If you don't like a lot of moisture, Roma tomatoes actually don't have a lot of moisture. Set that aside because we're done cutting. Gonna incorporate our tomatoes. Oh, that looks and smells amazing. Okay. Almost done. We're gonna add our dry seasonings. This is our Italian seasoning. You can add it to taste. It depends on how you like it. I like bold flavors. This here is our oregano. So we're gonna mix that all in. That looks beautiful. All right, I'm gonna give this about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Let that come back to a simmer. We're gonna taste it and then we're gonna start layering our lasagna. Okay, so we got this to a nice simmer. We added our tomatoes, we put in our seasoning. So now we're gonna do a little bit of a quality control and check to see if it tastes good. Always wanna check. And actually use a little bit more salt. Perfect. That's all I needed was a little bit of salt. That's why we always check. So now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring that over. All right. I'm going to coat the bottom of my pan with olive oil. That's so that the lasagna doesn't stick. Let that spread around. I'm gonna take the lasagna noodle, and this is perfect. It's alright that it breaks apart a little bit. You're gonna eat it anyway. And then you're gonna wanna layer. Then you add a little bit of the insides. Want to even that out a little bit. You don't want to put too much on each layer because you want to make sure that there's still some for the top. But you also want to make sure you get an even amount of everything, with every bite. That's perfect. And then you're gonna put your ricotta. Now this, I'm very liberal with how I put it. I just sprinkle a little bit on top. It's just for the binding of the actual lasagna. Okay. And then store-bought cheese. This is 5 different Italian cheeses. It has, or 4 different Italian cheeses: smoked mozzarella, Asiago, Romano, and provolone. So then you want to layer that nicely. And this is a low fat, low moisture cheese. And then you're going to want to repeat. Okay, so this is how it should look when you're ready to pop it in the oven, and you're going to put it in an oven 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And the last 5 minutes, you're gonna take off the foil so they can brown. So we're gonna add a little bit of foil. You don't wanna pack it down too much because you don't want the cheese to stick to the foil. So make sure that there is room. The reason why we do this is to keep the moisture in so that the pasta doesn't dry up. And we're gonna pop that in the oven. 350 degrees preheated, and we're going to set our timer. Perfect. For 20 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes we're going to take off the foil, let it with the cheese exposed, and it's going to brown on top. and it's going to be nice and beautiful, and we can start eating. Okay, so it's been about 25 minutes. We baked it for 20 minutes, we let it brown, we put the oven to broil for the last 5 minutes, and this is what it created. Some nice brown goodness. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just sprinkle some parsley on top for presentation. And there you have it, a nice light vegetable lasagna, simple and fit for your liking in the summer. Thank you.